Hello, I'm Nido Qubein. Welcome to Conversations with North Carolina's most influential leaders, appearing on the Power List presented by Business North Carolina. Robin team, welcome to this program. I have been intrigued for a long time about you for many reasons, all good, but principally because you have done a masterful job of bringing together the Triad region. You have projects in Forsyth County and Guilford County and downtown Greensboro. You live in Lexington. You have tentacles that went across this Triad. You have managed to work with governmental bodies, with private groups, and you have been an extraordinary developer for industry and for business and commercial projects. What is your secret?
You know, Nido, I think if I had to put it in a single word, it would be relationships. We've developed relationships with all the municipal bodies in the Triad. We've got builders, we've got architects, we've got engineers, and we treat those folks as if we've been doing business with them forever, and quite frankly, we have. We've got a superintendent on a job right now that was superintendent on a job for me 35 years ago. The same gentleman. And
that
I know
speaks highly of your leadership.
Well, and it speaks highly of their expertise as well. You know, they did a good job for us then, and they've continued to do a good job for us over decades.
Robin, what got you into this business in the first place?
A little bit of luck, I think. I started.
Did you come out of college saying, I want to be a developer?
No, I came out of college trying to figure out what I wanted to do. And I went to work for BB&T for a short while. You know BB&T pretty well.
Yes.
And was in Wilson in their training program. And you know, BB&T basically put me through a master's in finance, and I found that invaluable as time has gone on. Then I spent a stint in the furniture business in marketing and advertising, which gave me insights into that area that I needed for my personal growth. And then I went to work for a local Lexington tax attorney who was also a real estate developer, and he kind of taught me the tricks of the trade, and then eventually decided I wanted to go out and try and do it on my own, and here we are today.
What was your first project and where?
In Greensboro, or right outside of Greensboro at that point in time, we built the first building on the highway for Replacements Limited.
Really?
Yeah.
Where they are today?
Where they are today.
How about that?
Yeah, we built for them, and then 3 years later, we expanded that building for them again. And boy, what a success story for our communities.
So you would be, in that case, you would be the general contractor?
We hire general contractors. So a developer is like a magician. He hires all the components and waves his magic wand over the top of it and hope it turns out to be a good baked cake at the end of the day.
But a big part of all that, of course, is financing the project, correct?
Exactly.
And how do you do that? You go outside and find investors?
We do.
Do you have a formula that says I will always have 51% of every deal?
We do have a stable of investors, folks that have been very loyal to us over the years, and we try and keep at least 10% of each deal ourselves. We invest right along with our investor cadre. It makes them feel comfortable, and it also helps us with our bottom line a little bit as well.
So you're mostly in commercial and industrial development?
I would say commercial. We started out doing an awful lot of office space, a lot of medical office space in Winston-Salem. We were kind of the driving force in independent practice medical development in Winston-Salem for quite some time, and then morphed into general purpose office space. Lately, the hottest sector in real estate has been industrial, so we focused on that for the last 5 or 6 years.
Tremendous development in the Carolina core now, what with Toyota Battery and the Supersonic group, and with Honda Jet and all of those.
Right.
Tremendous demand, yes, for development.
It is. We think it's going to be a pent-up demand, quite frankly, and that's our focus looking forward is developing for the ancillary companies that will be suppliers and business partners of Toyota and VinFast and Wolfspeed and Boom. those are going to be tremendous economic drivers. And then there are lots of smaller projects that don't get quite the notoriety. Nucor is building a new facility in Davidson County, and there are a couple other big things on the horizon, I think, that are also going to make the news and be just tremendous driving economic factors for the Triad.
So most of these companies, do they choose to not own the facilities? Is that why they come to you?
I think it depends on corporate mindset and balance sheet structure. Some of the largest companies we deal with, we lease to Fortune 100 and Fortune 500 companies that certainly can own their own real estate, but I think it's balance sheet structure. A lot of them think they can make more money in their operating business than they can deploying that capital in real estate. So that's a great partnership because we specialize in the real estate component and everybody wins.
I was on the board of the Piedmont Triad International Airport some years ago when we were discussing attracting Federal Express. And I learned at that time that with FedEx come all these suppliers who wish to be around the airport. That was my first exposure to understanding the tentacles that are the outgrowth of a singular event like FedEx coming to PTI. And that's what you're talking about, is that when Toyota Battery comes here, there'll be a ton of suppliers. They all want to be close to an airport, though, don't they? And highways.
They certainly want to have the transportation infrastructure to be successful. And the closer they are to an interstate for a FedEx, and the closer rail. For a lot of companies, rail is their singular most important component. So if you've got a rail site, you've got a real valuable commodity. You only get to look at one out of every 10 opportunities that come along, but when that one opportunity does come along that needs rail, you're kind of in the driver's seat.
A couple of my good friends are Ron and Todd Wanek. They own Ashley Furniture.
Right.
It's the world's largest manufacturer of furniture. And I helped in a small way to bring one of their facilities in North Carolina through PTP some years ago. And they picked Advance. And I wondered why. They looked at a lot of places and picked Advance, North Carolina. And the primary reason was, A, lots of land that they can expand. Now they have, I don't know how many millions of square feet of space there, but also the highways, that they can literally within 3 minutes, 4 minutes, 5 minutes be on I-40 and they can go different places. It's intriguing that, in universities they do teach load management, they do teach organizational structure, and now mostly, they have to learn how to access the customers, how to be efficient and productive, and that's part of the thinking.
Exactly right.
How does that translate into what kind of building a company would want? Like you said, Nucor, for example. Do they come to you and say, we are into efficiency and productivity, and therefore our building must have A, B, and C?
Larger manufacturing companies typically build for themselves. There wouldn't be a place for a developer for the Toyota battery plant, per se.
Why? Because it's so specific?
Exactly. It's very specific, and they have components of that construction process that only they understand. Where developers tend to excel is going around plants like Toyota and building almost generic buildings that can be adapted and can be put into place quickly. There's been a proliferation of speculative development in industrial in the Triad over the last 4 or 5 years, and that's because we all anticipate this driving force that's gonna bring suppliers in for Toyota and all the other larger manufacturing facilities.
You're very optimistic about the growth of our Tar Heel State.
I am.
You're very optimistic about the growth of Carolina Core.
Yes.
What makes you so optimistic?
The Carolina Core has an industrial background, an industrial heritage that I think is greatly valued by the companies that are looking at our region. There are not a lot of regions in the country that have that background.
What is it, workforce you're talking about?
Absolutely workforce. the two biggest drivers and where a company is going to go is, number one, the availability of land and that proximity to airports and highways.
Utilities and...
Exactly right, just like you astutely mentioned a second ago. But the other is workforce. We've got incredible universities in the Triad, including High Point University right here.
Yes.
And they turn out a lot of degrees every single year. Our challenge is to make sure that all of those bright young people that are coming out of schools, including our community college systems, think that the Triad is a wonderful place to live and grow and raise a family. And so in addition to building industrial facilities, we try and enhance the lifestyles of the communities that we're fortunate enough to work in. We're building somewhat of a lifestyle center in downtown Winston-Salem that's part of the Innovation Quarter.
What is a lifestyle center?
It's a place that people want to go on Friday night to get a pizza or to get a beer or to have an entertainment venue.
I see.
And
are these typically outdoors or indoors?
It's a combination of both. We've got such a climate that we can capitalize on outdoor entertainment. The city of High Point's done a masterful job, and you've been involved in the downtown ballpark. I would call that a lifestyle center in and of itself.
Yeah. And now that lifestyle went from just baseball, now we're getting professional soccer down there.
Exactly right.
Plus people are using it for all kinds of opportunities. Charlotte has done an incredible job, and Raleigh too, right?
They have.
And are we behind them? Are we equal to them? Might we learn some things from those areas?
I think we're like the third horse coming around the last turn in a race, and they're looking over their shoulders at us.
Yes.
We have advantages that Raleigh and Charlotte don't have, and I think that our industrial heritage is one of
as in the mega sites, for example.
Exactly right. Yeah. And the workforce that has worked in industrial facilities in the past. Our road infrastructure is second to none. I'm a fairly impatient person, and when I go to Raleigh, and certainly when I go to Charlotte, and I get cooped up in a car in traffic, it drives me crazy. We don't have those problems.
But might we have it? If growth continues. I asked Mike Fox, who, as you know, is the chair of the board of Department of Transportation, DOT, and I asked him the question, as an area grows, one has to be anticipatory and prepare carefully and thoughtfully for that growth, lest you then become a congested area. I think of Wilmington, North Carolina, as a place that has become so in favor with a lot of people, and therefore traffic has become an issue. And they're building highways down there as well.
Yeah, they are. They've got constraints of water that kind of funnels all of that traffic into different corridors. We don't have that problem. But
that's an opportunity for them. Water is what brings people down there.
Exactly. When you talk about a lifestyle center, being close to the ocean is definitely a lifestyle enhancement.
Intercoastal and the ocean itself.
Exactly right. But I think Greensboro and Winston-Salem and High Point being in the middle of those two have been anticipatory in their traffic development. We've just this past week opened the last leg of the Greensboro loop, I believe. And that's a loop that 10 years ago people wondered, why do we need that? And today it's a reality, and it's going to solve the problems that traffic might have created 10 to 15 to 20 years from now. So I think the Triad's done a great job being anticipatory in its road infrastructure.
So, Robin, you have done a great job attracting your children into the business. You've become a family business in many ways. How does that work? Is that working okay? You're still friends with your kids? Are you paying them enough? Do they go complain about you to their mom, or is it all rosy and fine?
It depends on who you ask on any given day. I told my boys when they graduated from college that our business was an opportunity for them, but it wasn't an obligation. And I said, go work for somebody else for a while. Get your nose bloodied a little bit. And then if you want to come back and work for the company, the door will always be open. I'm lucky that they both are very talented and they both have different talents that complement each other. And I've got a couple of other young men who are part of our executive team that complement the two of them very well. And we laugh. It's kind of a family business, but it's really not a family business anymore. In that it's not a blood family business. It's a family business because everybody that works at Front Street feels like we are part of the Front Street family.
Tell me about how you decide whether or not you will get involved in a project. I'm interested to understand from you, what are the fundamentals that you look at? Clearly ROI and all that, but what is it that makes you say, yes, we want to pursue this deal, no, we will never pursue that deal?
I think it's different when you look at an industrial project versus a multifamily office project, for instance. Let me talk about the office first. We built the first high-rise in downtown Greensboro in over 30 years, we've been told, right beside the first baseline at the Greensboro Grasshoppers baseball field. And when we started, we had one tenant that was going to take 2 floors of a 9-story building. So it was a big roll of the dice for us. But we
in the sense that it was a risky project?
It was definitely a risky project compared to a fully baked industrial deal that has a lease, a 10 to 15 year lease with a Fortune 500
You don't know if you're going to be
company.
fully occupied, you don't know if all of that.
Exactly right. And we finished the shell construction of that building about 3 months before this little event called COVID-19 hit. So it brought a whole different set of challenges, but we have pretty much filled that building up over the last couple of years, and it is a wonderful new opportunity with new innovative office space for folks in downtown Greensboro to look at as an alternative. So that was proximity to a major event center like the ballpark. The city of Greensboro built a parking deck very close by so that we could accommodate the parking needs of our tenants. And it just all seemed to work, and we felt like there was some pent-up demand for new product in downtown Greensboro. In industrial, we look for successful businesses. We look for creditworthy businesses. We look for leases that will transcend maybe different market conditions. And then we look for companies that will enhance the communities in which we're building. We've gone through a little self-study with our company in the last year, and our core purpose has been coined shaping the built environment to enrich our communities. And I'm very proud of the young folks on our executive team for coming up with that as our main purpose. And they're putting our communities maybe even ahead of our company. Certainly maybe profitability on a deal or not.
Young people seem to be much more focused on those kind of issues, the goodwill of the community, the interest in evolving a city and so on. There's a degree of stewardship, I think, that generationally we see more of today.
Very much so, and I'm very proud of our young team and putting that mantle of challenge on their shoulders and trying to enhance our communities.
So you've had many successes. Surely you've had a failure or two along the way.
We've been very lucky. We have gone through 3 different recessionary periods during my career in commercial real estate. We've positioned our leases in such a way that we could ride through those recessionary periods without losing very much in the way of momentum. In fact, if I look at the periods of time where we've gained market share in the Triad, in our ground-up development business, it's been during those recessionary periods. So we've kind of A, anticipated, and B, positioned ourselves in such a way to capitalize on
How does
those
one structure the lease in such a way that one does not suffer measurably when times get hard?
Well, you look for credit-worthy tenants, number one, and number two, you look for lease term that will sustain you through a certain period of time. That makes your financial partners very comfortable with the deal, whether they're the investors or whether we're the lending institution that help provide the capital for deals like that.
But have you ever had a project that did not meet your expectations? Let's say it didn't fail completely, but it disrupted your process and it disrupted your predictive result.
Right. We certainly had a couple of office projects that COVID slowed down. So we had a little bit more capital needs towards the end of those projects as they were leased up. So that dilutes your return on investment a little bit.
And money dries up from commercial lenders, no?
It can, and what's interesting about that is it tends to be financial market driven, and there are certain ratios that lenders have to comply with for federal regulations, and so that they look as appealing as possible in their market conditions, their stock price, and from time to time lenders roll into and out of commercial development. So during periods of time where you anticipate a recession, I guess we're in one of those times right now. If you read the newspapers every day, that seems to be the banner headline in the business sections. A lot of times it's a self-fulfilling prophecy. The media talks about a recession to the point it kind of talks the consuming public into a little bit of a recession. We don't think that there's going to be a recession in North Carolina.
Not a serious one anyway.
And we don't think there's going to be hardly a blip in the industrial radar in the Triad, because we've got such dynamic forces at work right now that we feel like the Triad's just going to continue and be a very, very successful story.
Have you done anything in rural North Carolina?
A couple of little things that hardly bear mentioning. We've followed tenants. If we have a big tenant here in the Triad that wants a facility in Greenville, South Carolina, for instance, we built there, and in Greenville, North Carolina.
Okay, so you've built outside North Carolina.
Our company has several different divisions, and one of those divisions acquires in-place assets in multiple states. So we're kind of a southeast regional company now.
Yeah, I see. So looking forward, Robin team, what do you see for your company, and what do you see for our state in terms of economic transformation, in terms of economic growth, or in terms of challenges that we might all be prepared for?
Right. I'll talk about the company here briefly first and say that what I'm most excited about is watching our young executive team grow into and master their leadership roles. So that at some point in time it's their company and not my company anymore. I think
and they're in their 30s.
All of them are in their
40.
mid to upper 30s.
Yeah.
One a little bit older than that. But they're all young, hard-charging drivers that I think are doing really well. And I'm excited to see where they're going to take the company next. They think big, and I think we'll capitalize on that.
Why do you live in Lexington?
Lexington's where I grew up. My dad was a old-fashioned solo practice family doctor, and I went to Lexington Senior High School, and then went on to Wake Forest. And I guess I tried to move away, tried to move to the big city, and at the time we talked about was working for BB&T, and they said, well, I know you'd like to move to Raleigh, but we really need you back in Lexington. So I moved back to Lexington and grew my own roots there. It was a great place to raise a family and go to school and develop deep church roots, and it's just the quintessential small southern town that that's very comfortable.
And
for
you live in
living
a beautiful section of Lexington, I'm at. It's really a gorgeous area. I thought maybe it's barbecue that attracted you to Lexington and kept you there.
Well, barbecue maybe in the earlier days, but I try and stay away from that as much as I can these days.
As we grow older, we become a little smarter about those things.
Exactly.
Yes.
So you also asked about North Carolina, and I see the I-40 and I-85 corridors, primarily the I-85 corridor as being a huge driver looking forward. We talked about Raleigh and Charlotte being major drivers in the state, and they obviously are. But as the price of land in those communities goes up and the availability of land in those communities go up, I think you're going to see Raleigh growing to the west, Charlotte growing to the northeast, and I think we're right in the middle, and we're going to capitalize on that continued growth. You know, North Carolina has garnered lots of terrific press in the metrics of continued growth in migration, number one place to live, and I just see North Carolina as having a tremendously bright future.
And legislation has helped that. Tax systems have helped that. Our climate certainly helps that. So I agree with you that our future is very, very bright. We see it in people moving to North Carolina, following their students who go to college in North Carolina, for example. You see a lot of Florida people and others who will move up to the mountains of North Carolina. We are very fortunate.
We are.
We have the ocean and we have the mountains and everything in the middle that's growing and evolving and transforming in beautiful ways. Well, Robin, it's a pleasure chatting with you. You know, I'm personally always inspired and motivated by people who have an idea, who take a risk with the idea, even though it's calculated and carefully thought risk, and then see it to execution. That's what this country is all about, and you are a model for that view of free enterprise and building something and being proud of it. And as you said about your children, not only building it for your own benefit, but making sure that the community at large benefits in a great way too.
I couldn't have said it any better, and thank you for that compliment. And I could return that compliment to you as I drove through this beautiful campus today. I think to myself, wow, what in the world? High Point University is truly a landmark in the Triad and a tremendous economic driver of its own force. And we're very, very lucky to have this university as well as other great universities in the Triad, and you've done a remarkable job here as well.
Thank you very much. We've been blessed and highly favored, and I think focus. Someone said focus is more important than intelligence. As long as we're focused on the right things, the future is always bright.
I agree with that.
Yeah. Thank you for being with me today in this Business North Carolina program, and I look forward to seeing you again soon.
You too as well.